speak on that.
So tell us how you got there. You were a former Division I athlete at what school?
So I played at Oklahoma State first, and I finished up at SMU. So I graduated from SMU there in Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
Extremely fortunate to do that. So
you played full 4 years?
All for 3 years. I finished last year. I just focused more on trying to finish up the school. So yeah.
And what position?
I was a linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you couldn't tell by the sheer size of the fucking man, he was a linebacker. And so after 3 years, what happened?
Yeah. So afterwards, man, I was fortunate enough to have worked for a sports agency. got in there as an intern. When I got in, just like anybody else, I was trying to earn my stripes. Never thought in a million years, I'd even be in that position, but it was a dream of mine to be able to work on the business side of sports. And I was so lucky that one of my best friends on the team at the time was a highly touted athlete, and the agency that he ended up going with was kind enough to bring me on as an intern, and that's where my journey began.
And so you've been doing it for how long now?
So this started I graduated in 2010. So once I graduated, I got right into right into it. Right before I graduated college, I was already an intern, finishing up doing that.
8 years later, if you could go back, would you rather have gone to the NFL or gone into this field?
100% gone to this field.
So you think this is a much better decision?
1,000% better.
Fate.
Because I wouldn't have brought any value just being the guy that just played the game versus seeing the game for all it is.
I like that.
From seeing it from a 30,000 square foot view of what they're seeing.
Yep.
And, like I said, I was fortunate when I was at SMU, the mindset was different. The individuals I was in class with had parents that owned companies, owned sports teams. So these guys were thinking of, after I graduate, I'm gonna go run a company. I'm gonna run this, sports franchise per se.
Yep.
So it's different mindset. So for me, it was like I got excited one day when a gentleman came up to me, and his dad owned a huge NFL team right now. I was saying names, but
please say some names.
So we were talking one day, just at lunch, and we were just chit chatting, and I was like, man, I can't wait for your dad to draft me. What would you pay me, man? He was like, how much would you want to get paid? And I'm jokingly saying $15 million a year, throwing these outrageous numbers. And then it just dawned on me. He just said, have you ever thought about what it would be like to be an owner? Like, do you know how much the owner has to have to pay you $15 million?
It's crazy.
And I think that statement alone
sparked something in it.
It just changed everything. He's like,
different level of perspective.
He's like, do you know how much he has to have to give you 15? And if you're excited about 15, you really need to get excited about the number that he has to have. And to me, that right there was like, that's the game I want to play.
Yeah.
I want to cut that check.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to make that decision when things happen. And so over years, when things are played out through the NFL, you realize, man, players all want to play, but nobody's talking about owning their own team. It's when things happen, is when people start speaking about ownership.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of the specifics on a day-to-day of you operating this business, who you operate it with?
Right. So it's crazy how we started. When we got started in the business, my job was simple, which is going out there recruiting athletes, and you can imagine.
Give us the name of the business as well.
So, I worked for Jordan Ward. He's with Willis & Ward Sports Group.
Okay.
That was our founding agent. So one of the things that changed our business was when Reggie Bush, I don't know if you guys remember, had that incident with the Heisman.
Yeah.
Right? It changed the whole model of our business because the NCAA came in, the NFL came in and said, well, we can no longer have sub-agents anymore. Because I was not technically a sports agent. I don't do contracts.
Right.
I was just the guy in the middle that can go bring the guys in.
Yeah.
So that was my role, but I was so thankful looking back because when that happened, I had to learn another way to make money.
Yeah.
And I got into working for FC Dallas, and that's why I met a gentleman that got into, in the financial industry.
Yep.
And for me, it was like, I didn't want to be a sports agent. I liked everything the agent did, but I felt like he could do more. And I realized the financial part was big for me because all the players I had recruited, the biggest thing I used to tell them was, I got your back till the wheels fall off, till the wheels do fall off.
Yeah.
So they have that financial headache and they call you and say, hey, it's gone. And you got to find a solution. And it's like, all this time, I wasn't prepared. I was just like everybody else, be smart, invest. But what does that mean?
Right. It's easy to say that.
It's easy to say that.
But what do you really do?
Exactly.
And that's where you come in and you...
Right. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the difference between what you're doing and what an agent typically doing. An agent is like, hey, we're gonna help you get the most money in a contract. We're gonna help you get these endorsement deals.
Right.
You're like, yeah, it's cool, but
Right.
I'm gonna help you actually build wealth and make money for the rest of your life type thing.
Most definitely, but not just telling them building it, because I realized the challenge I dealt with most of my athletes, when I sat with all of them down, I started asking questions. How did you pick your financial advisor? What questions did you ask them? And what did you know about finance? About what your money, where it's going. You have a 401k, do you understand the basics of it?
Yep.
Do you understand how money grows, how it gets doubled, how it gets taxed? Because players think, hey, I got $1 million check, but they're not including the tax.
Yeah.
So they're not including that $400,000 may go to Uncle Sam, because that's not, so you're off. Imagine being off $400,000.
Yeah.
So financial literacy, I realized, was common, but it's not just within athletes. This happens with everyday individual. This is a global pandemic.
Yeah. Right.
This is a global issue.
100%. That's why people are here.
Right.
Because of it.
Right.
Right.
And why you said that, before I forget this, you said it to me last night. I don't know how many people know this. If you're an athlete and you play for Dallas Cowboys, when you go to New York and play the New York Jets, you get taxed. Your game check is taxed as you live in New York because you played in New York.
That was a gem
And
he
then
dropped on us
California, whatever.
yesterday.
So that's crazy, because
That's insane.
even if you live in Dallas, you live in the state where there's no income tax and no state tax, and then you go and play in New York. Well, usually if you're making $300,000 a game, now you're making $212 a game or whatever, $150 a game, you know?
Every
which is
city
crazy.
they go to, they get taxed on.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's so wild.
Whatever the city tax status is, that's what your check has to go through.
So wild.
So you have to imagine how that money has to go through before it actually comes back to you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It goes through a lot. It goes to the
through
ringer,
a
and they're
lot.
W-2 guys. So that's the big play for you.
So it's your job to not only help them pay their taxes,
Right.
keep them out of trouble, but essentially a regular agent just gets them the money.
Right.
Now you're teaching them how to leverage it, keep it safe,
Right.
and turn it into more.
More, most definitely. And just leverage their whole brand in itself. How do you, because the agent, that's literally, they're just getting you the contract and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
Right.
that's what I saw. I thought that's what I wanted to do, but I realized there was being more, most financial advisors would say, let me manage your money.
Yeah.
And then you go do your own thing. I actually want my guys to understand why your money's in that account.
Right.
Why are we not using a bank versus this account?
Right.
How
think
does that leverage?
I think a good metaphor is like they're providing a vehicle,
Right.
but nobody's teaching you how to drive.
Exactly.
And now you're here, driver's ed, baby.
Exactly.
And they'll teach you how to do the turns.
Exactly.
So the story you told right before we got on camera was about one of your players, and you saw him the day before draft day in the line at McDonald's. He can barely afford McDonald's to eat. So obviously, most people probably know this, but there's the deeper level of like, why? How come these guys, they grow up poor their whole life, they finally make money, and all he's saying is like, when I get in the NFL, I'll never have to worry about money. And their mindset is so broken that they get in the NFL, they think they never have to worry about money. They make their first $1 million, and then all of a sudden, that $1 million is $600,000 in taxes, to your agent, to your fees, to your managers. You got to buy this person a house. You got to buy a nice car.
Right.
Your million's gone in the first month you get it. You know. So what is the root cause, do you think, of that itself?
Again, it's the one thing I realized, again, we go back to it, it's financial literacy.
Yeah.
Just understanding just the basics of what that looks like. Some of these guys, when they're getting ready to get drafted, based upon where they're going to be drafted, sometimes, you have financial companies, per se, that would give you guys an advance. Right? Everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses. So you've been living or whatever you were living before, apartments, house, wherever you were living before, just fine. But now as you're getting closer to that money, you feel the need to upgrade your lifestyle. And some guys just go to the extreme in that perspective. Do I blame them? Nah, it's your dream. You've been...
Right.
But it's
course,
like,
it's
how do I leverage that?
Right.
How do I take the same 100,000, but use it 3 times?
Yeah, I like that right there. That was a good one.